by these sponsors.
واصحابك وقرايبك بس قول لهم انزل معايا، نزلهم 5 ولا 10. لو كل واحد فينا نزل 5 و10 ونزل بيهم لميدان التحرير او ميدان اللازوجلي او في اي حته عشوائيه حتى، ويتكلم الناس ويقول لهم بقى كفايه بدل ما نولع في نفسنا، تعالوا نتكلم ونسجل موقف، ده هيفرق وهيفرق كتير قوي. اوعى تقول مفيش امل. طول ما انت بتقول مفيش امل هيبقى مفيش امل. طول ما انت بتنزل وبتسجل موقف هيبقى فيه امل. اوعى تخاف من الحكومه، خاف من ربنا. ربنا بيقول ان الله لا يغير ما بنفس حتى بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بانفسهم. ليه؟ مش علشان ان انت تبقى كويس وقاعد في حالك وماشي جنب الحيطه، الحيطه هتقع عليك وهتقع علينا كلنا. انزل وطالب بحقك وبحقي وبحق اهلك وبحقنا كلنا. انا نازله يوم 25 وهقول للفساد لا والنظام لا.
That was Asma Mahfouz, the woman who started the revolution in Egypt, the one who started all, and everybody rallies, and 18 million people 18 days later were on the street, either tumbled 30 years of dictatorship of Mubarak. Some Americans went to the state capital yesterday and they celebrated with the Egyptian revolution victory, and I was there. I met somebody there, and they built pyramids, a snow pyramid there, and there was some issue from the police there that they stopped them from completing the pyramids because they did not need a permit. They need a permit for the pyramids. An Egyptian did not need a permit. But Dallas Taylor, our guest today, he was there and he had some few comments about how the police look at this issue in the context of a whole revolution. It was very surreal, Dallas. Welcome to come and thank you for coming. Very surreal. Everybody's celebrating a historical revolution and victory, and things is going to change the rest of history in Egypt. And here is a police asking for a permit.
Well, I think the most interesting part was that it was a permit for us to shape a 10-foot snow mound into the shape of a pyramid.
Was it the shape the issue or the size?
Well, I think it was the aspect of an assembly. Even though we have the right to a peaceful assembly here in America, once you actually do it, they need to come and test and, just to make sure that you're still being peaceful.
You are free, but under that frame.
Exactly right. You have the no free or the free speech zone. Like you have free speech over there.
Yeah, the green zone mentality.
Exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about there was a revolution in Iran,
right,
a few years back.
Yes.
A revolution in Tunis, and it seems to me the way the media cover the Iranian revolution a little bit different than how it's covered in the Arab world. It seems to me the media, the free media, when it is an anti-American dictator revolution, they are more up to arm and almost in it.
Yeah.
When a pro-American dictators, a revolution against pro-American, it seems like the Americans, I'm not talking about the politics. Of course, Obama was wishy-washy for quite some time about the American revolution. And even the American people, their feeling about these things, they did not wake up until the end. So tell us about your background and your history of activism, and how did that start, and where you are at now?
Well, when I was 17 years old, I was beat up by the cops on the first trip that my parents ever let me go on alone down to Florida. We were going to the beach, and out of 10 of us, there was one young man that was underage that had one single beer, and they wanted to arrest him, and we were asking where they were taking him, and they got extremely hostile, and beat me down and pepper sprayed me and put us in jail, and we still didn't know where we were. We were 17, 18 years old. And it wasn't like we were doing anything outrageous. It was, so I was woken up to, and then they gave me a ticket, and my parents didn't believe me, and so it turned my family against me a little bit, and they were like, you were obviously doing something wrong. And so I was woken up to the police state at a very early age, and have since read books like The Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, and he clearly explains how our government has gone into these countries and given the countries loans for their infrastructure in lieu of political influence and things like that. And I think that that's really what we're seeing here is a continuation of those types of policies. It's like the chicken and the pig talking about having eggs and bacon for breakfast. When the bombs are going off on at your house, you're a little more focused on what's going on. It's like, and all we worry about, we get our focus when the gas prices go up.
How the American government or the empire were able to shield the majority of Americans from what they're doing out there? I mean, it seems like, Mubarak was known for all the Egyptians as dictator and doing all these horrible things. And until today, people were wondering why people are tumbling. This is our man there. You always hear have peace with Israel. You cannot cover the revolution in Egypt and what's going to happen unless you hear who has a peace with Israel.
Right. Well, I would have to go back to Nazi Germany because there you constantly tell the population that it's under threat of attack. And so then you can create an enemy and tell them that, okay, there's your enemy, and be focused on that enemy. And then, and so we're so conditioned here to be divided and conquered. It kind of goes back to the Civil War. And I think that it also plays a part in what we're looking at today in the fact of slave-based economies, where it's not happening on our shores anymore, but it's happening with these corporations around the world, and they're having this effect on the planet, and and everyone is starting to wake up and see what's going on.
When people hear about Egypt, do they think of Egypt that everybody knows about it? How do Americans think of Egypt? The average American.
The average American would have to consider the world of archaeology and National Geographic. Not
exotic people, threatening.
Not necessarily that we have to always have the caricature of a mummy or things of that nature. Like
yesterday, was all that serious. People will say, "Walk like an Egyptian," and start dancing, which is kind of.
It's certainly a caricature of it, and and then there is the celebratory aspect of that, to where it's like walk like an Egyptian and rise up against your oppressive government.
Interesting.
I mean that's a little more of the spirit behind that.
Oh, I see.
It's certainly not a fan, just so the Bengals can sell more records.
You're right. You have a huge market, the revolutionary market. But tell us about how this revolution in Egypt, affects what you think and what you do, and what was so unique about it that got you to go to the capital 2-3 times and be part of this?
Well, I think for me, when I'm sort of different, I'm from the South. My parents are preachers down there, and so I'm always giving them information and about what's happening in the world, and trying to sort of show them a little bit a different perspective. And I'm up here in Minnesota and a little bit out of place, and so I wouldn't say that I'm a typical individual, by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah. But there's instability everywhere right now. We have it happening again in Iran. We saw it over the weekend with the women in Italy, rising up against Berlusconi.
Inspired by this.
And it's happened in the Bahrain. It's happened